It is 6 o'clock. This meeting is called to order. Charlie, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Begin, as always, with reviewing and approving minutes of previous meetings, starting with the April 9, 2012 work session.
Madam Chairman, I recommend they be approved as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Ray and seconded by Mike. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Moving on to the April 9, 2012 Select Board meeting.
I'd make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike and seconded by Dick. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstention. Those minutes are approved. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on May 14, 2012, and Tuesday, May 29, 2012. Work sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 p.m. All of the above meetings will be held in the Town Hall unless otherwise posted. The Plymouth Police Department will be conducting a prescription drug take-back on April 28th from 10 to 2. This is for townspeople to bring in unused, unwanted, or expired prescriptions for the police to dispose of them. People should take note that it is no longer recommended nor encouraged to flush prescriptions into the sewer, so the police take-back is definitely the way to go with that. It's also come to our attention that there are more areas of Plymouth that do not have cable service in addition to Texas Hill Road. So if anyone here present or watching tonight's meeting knows of any areas of Plymouth that do not have cable service, please contact the Town Hall. As we are moving forward with contract negotiations with Time Warner, this will be an important piece of information for us to have. Weather observations for the month of March are available in the Town Hall, and citizens wishing to be listed on the Selectman's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Moving on, we have correspondence, a letter regarding the rights-based ordinance in opposition to the Northern Pass project that Mike Conklin has been working on.
You can step away from the table for a minute.
Thank you. And Mike, would you like to just summarize? We are
We were discussing at our last meeting the fact that Article 4, was it, of our warrant at the town meeting resulted in a vote in favor of the so-called rights-based ordinance, which was in part an effort to craft an ordinance that would create a right to a sustainable energy future, is one of the ways it was worded. So we felt that although that warrant article was advisory in nature and did not actually result in the passage of an ordinance, that the townspeople's feelings about that article were strong enough that we wanted to impart that information perhaps to our elected officials, so we've written a letter that we'd like to use for that purpose. And I think because he was so deeply involved in the issue, we thought we would have Peter Martin take a look at this if he's willing, and if he's watching he could call us with his phone number because I couldn't find it today. But Attorney Phillips, who's on the Energy Commission, offered to take a look at it, and the rest of us are going to review it over the course of the next couple of weeks, I think, and then probably send it out to various local or state elected officials. I guess if anybody would like to see it, we could make it available in draft, or...
Yeah, and I think,
Do you want me to, I don't think do we want to read it?
no, I think we can read the final form when we decide on it, when we decide what we're going to send out. I think that would be the appropriate thing. Paul, could we possibly get the draft onto the town website so that if anyone's interested,
Okay,
so you could just
all right.
send that as
Send
an
it to-
email attachment?
Would it be appropriate to wait till after the Energy Commission meeting before we putting the draft on the website?
Sure, okay.
So the Energy Commission is meeting
Wednesday
Wednesday,
evening.
and this letter is going to be presented to them then. At some point after that, we'll have the draft on the town's website for people to take a look at.
Just send it to me when
Okay.
they're ready.
Mike, I wasn't sure when you said 4. I thought it was 2, but I just double-checked. It was Article 3.
Oh, Article, I knew it was 3 and 4, but thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. Any further discussion on that letter? Okay. Moving on, we have no visitors. Under Chairman's comments, I would like to just extend my congratulations to Katie, whose launch program, which most people know, are familiar with through Frosty Scoops, has been selected by the White House as the only youth program of its kind in the nation to be so recognized. So well done to Katie for that. And we have a public hearing scheduled for 6:30, and since we are not at 6:30 yet, I would like to move on the agenda to committee reports. Charlie, have you anything?
I have nothing.
Ray?
I'll defer all my comments to Dick, who was at the meetings that I attended.
Okay.
Which meeting? No. The planning board met last Thursday and moving ahead with sort of initiating a review of the master plan and sort of broken the members of the board up into some subcommittees, start that process. And then Friday before last, was it Friday before last? Yes, yeah. Was at the chamber meeting, their monthly meeting over at the senior center. And got introduced to the group, and they just kind of did some administrative things, sort of looking at some of their subcommittees, a quick little discussion on the annual meeting coming up this Thursday. And obviously they're going to play a role in be an active participant in the work down on Main Street with the new building down there, and the grant. How much, I forget what the grant amount was on that.
Last one was $90-some thousand.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, they're being very successful in getting that going, so they'll be, as I said, an active participant in that. And just a good group, and looking forward to working with them more.
I did happen to have Mark Scarano catch me after Friday's meeting. He's the executive director for the Economic Development Council, and he's looking forward to sometime in May coming back in front of the select board and giving us a more current update on where they stand. They've had a lot of successes since they were last here, and he'd like to share those with us and what the timeline now looks like for construction.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think their most recent grant was 500,000. Probably 600,000, I forget what the exact number was, but one of the things they mentioned at the meeting was that, you know, oftentimes you do a lot of fundraising and then kind of make the building work. I mean, they've got sort of a set amount of money, so they're going to just be working with their architectural firm to sort of get the building to work within the budget that they were able to work within. I mean, there's sort of small windows of opportunity to get the project going and get the building going and things like that, so they're going to sort of work that process as best they can. But it's a very exciting project.
Mike?
Well, I don't think I've been into anything since last time, but Ray and I are going to go to the Plymouth Energy Commission meeting on Wednesday, where Ray is going to update us on his discussions with the co-op about maybe changing out some of the streetlights to LEDs earlier on a set schedule. I don't think we know exactly what that is, but progress is being made there. And also, I think that the Plymouth Water and Sewer Commission is having an open house on May 1st?
Yes.
Is it May 1st? And people might be interested in going to see what they've done there and, what the energy situation is like at our practically brand-new Plymouth Water and Sewer District Commission building. May 1st, I think it's noonish, right?
I didn't bring it in with me.
But I'm sure it's on their site.
It is May 1st, though.
All right, so if anyone wants to go to the Plymouth Water and Sewer District Open House, check the website for the time and plan to go on May 1st. I attended a PSU Community Task Force meeting and came out of that, basically schedule of events. Spring Fling is coming up May 4th and 5th, and that will be announced in the local newspapers with some detail as to what events are open to the public, what events are not, but at least give the public some information about what the plan is. PSU has graduation scheduled for May 19th. This is the first time in many, many years that they are having one event, one graduation for both graduate and undergraduate students. So it will be a big weekend, May 18 through 20. That's going to mean some changes for local merchants as far as what kind of businesses uptake they can expect from visiting families of students who are graduating, and it will also have a different kind of an impact on traffic in town than the usual graduation over 2 consecutive weekends that's been done for at least the last 10 years or so. So be aware of that. Then the other thing that came up from the PSU Task Force meeting had to do with the former Methodist Church on Highland Street. Some people have had questions about what's being done there. And you may recall an announcement that was made here some time back that Plymouth State is actually planning to open the Museum of the White Mountains at that site, with the first phase of that opening coming, I believe, in early 2013. So as we see the progress on the former church building on Highland Street, that is what it is going to be. And I think it's going to be, really promoting the history, culture, and environmental legacy of the White Mountain region. So it'll be an attraction for Plymouth, as well as being an important educational opportunity. And I think we can move on still. Next on our agenda is Brian Murphy with the development of Class 6 roads.
Madam Chair, board members, it's been kind of obvious to all the planning folks in the town and board that individual development along Class 6 roads, we're not out of land in Plymouth, but a lot of the property is serviced by these roads. The legislature had made, I don't know when from when, but there are ways to allow it that are short of subdivision. In other words, large tracts of land with private roads and everything, but to allow individuals to develop their property as they see fit. One of the ways to do that is to have the landowner acknowledge legally that the town has no authority over that particular road, which we're all aware of, for friends, the Class 6 road, what kind of a pain it can be at times. So basically, what we're saying to them, or what people are saying is, sure, you can go ahead and develop there, but it's all on you. that if there's interruptions in fire or police service or even road maintenance, the town can't be held responsible. So there's language in the RSA's concerning limits of municipal liability is what it's called. So years ago, back in '98, the planning board wanted to put this forward and presented all the information to town administration. And at that point, it kind of disappeared, other than getting feedback from town council with the preferred language that he would like to see. These limits of liability are actually recorded at the Grafton County Registry of Deeds. So it's a legal document that holds with the land. And it can be undone if those roads are ever brought up to Class 5, but it certainly covers the town at that point. So this paperwork was actually a vote by the Board of Selectmen to adopt this as official policy in the town. To that end, I have given you all, I think, a copy of Radigan's legal document, and another piece of paper just saying that a resolution by the board, and this is what is proposed, that prior to receiving a building permit for development on a lot accessed by a Class 6 road, the applicant must provide a certified, and we check that language with John, and that's not certified like certified mail or a medallion stamp. It's just that you're attesting to the fact, and he said that the stamps from the county are actually certification enough, so a Xerox would be fine. Anyways, a certified copy of the notice of limits of municipal responsibility and liability recorded at the Grafton County Registry of Deeds. It's up to you if there's any discussion.
And this essentially says that the landowner accepts full responsibility to maintain the road at his or her own cost and liability. The landowner waives all rights to sue the town for any failure of fire, police, or ambulance, or any town services shall apply to all subsequent owners, and if there is more than one lot on a given Class 6 road, owners share the costs equally. For posting signs that say town services end here at the point where the Class 6 road intersects the nearest road of a higher standard. Yes, Ray?
Madam Chairman, having some experience with this situation actually arising in front of the planning board, I am in support of the proposal that Mr. Murphy has put in front of us for our consideration, and I believe it would be in the best interest of the town if the select board acts to adopt this policy. I think it sets out a clear set of guidelines and would be a real asset for future considerations that come in front of the planning board. So I would recommend approval.
May I ask Brian a question? Brian, what happens on if you have a Class 6 road and, say, owners on either side of the road, can you issue building permits for both sides and have them both signed?
They would be individual because it's tagged to the property itself.
Or what about, 3 or 4 properties up a Class 6 road some distance? I guess what I'm getting at is there an issue when, the road gets overused, or where you can't, really rely on this, or it requires subdivision approval, or?
It does become a subdivision approval process then when you have multiple housings. This would no longer apply then.
But if I'm reading what Mr. Conklin says correctly, this would be 5 different landowners
Right.
deciding to build at the same time.
And presently abutting it without any subdivision.
Right. Then without subdivision, this would go, because it's all on an individual basis. So if the guy in the 4 part of the road said, well, I'm not going to sign this because those guys can pick up the slack, then he would be turned down. Mostly it's not road work as much as it is public safety,
And
fire
so
department and police.
landowners in a situation like that would probably have to have some sort of road maintenance agreement among themselves, I would think, which wouldn't involve the town.
Not at all. It'd be purely a private
And as
agreement.
you say, what we're primarily interested in is not being responsible for getting fire trucks or the ambulance or police
Correct.
out there.
And they will make the effort to get up there, but if the road is washed out, the road is washed out, and the highway department can't come in and fill that
Mhm.
to get.
But I guess, I understand the purpose of the policy. My reading of the statute is that even if the board, either the Board of Selectmen or the Planning Board adopts the policy, every time someone comes in and wants a building permit on a Class 6 road, it's considered on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
Yeah. So, if we have 6 permit requests over the next year, we'll have 6 recommendations from the planning board and 6 individual
Right, now-
ones that would need to be taken.
If they're individuals, they won't necessarily go to the planning board. And that's where the Board of Selectmen comes in, because they regulate the land use permits in the town. If you own property on a Class 6 road in Plymouth, you do not have to go to the planning board to build a home.
Well, I guess I'm just looking at C1 of the statute that talks about the local governing board, us, after review and comment by the planning board, the planning board is authorized to, yeah, it gets a little murky.
Right, I think
I
part
guess-
of that is because it's pulled out of the subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
And they kind of interweave themselves there.
Yeah. I guess one thing, I've had some interaction with Class 6 roads. Potentially, there could be some Class 6 roads where maybe the planning board and the Board of Selectmen might say, no, you're not going to get a permit because of such disrepair, stream crossings or ruts or,
Well, and I think at the final sentence of the policy says, "The Board of Selectmen may choose to accept, alter, or ignore the recommendation of the planner on
Yeah.
any given land use permit application." And I think that means that you can choose to,
Right, but I think that mostly the situation that Dick brought up is absolutely covered by the waiver. That if they want to go to the expense of crossing the streams and to get to the, because they own the property out there, wherever it is. Class 6 roads are Class 6 roads. Anybody can use them. They're free to maintain them if they wish. Basically, you're warning them ahead of time that you're in a dangerous situation here and that you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't believe that anything would come through the planning board on an individual basis.
Right. It would seem just
Because
to
those
do
are
it.
lots of record. If it was a subdivision, then everything else entails. And if it was off of a Class 6 road, basically they would say that, as they've done it in the past, that all roads have to be built to a Class 5 town standard, including that portion that goes to wherever the entrance is to the subdivision. And then there are other things that the planning board could probably do in that regard, that if it, they could cause the developer to develop that stretch of Class 6 road to town standard if there were certain other conditions that involved along there, that routes to school, things of that nature. Off-site development, I believe, is the correct term.
I guess just the one other point that I would make is that if you have a Class 6 road that, let's say, is 1,000 feet long, and the first person that comes in is the guy with the last 200 feet of frontage on that Class 6 road, sort of the way I've handled it is that everybody, before you get to that lot, because you've already issued a permit on a Class 6 road that covers the entire length of the roadway, that the people that come in subsequent don't have to come in and get board approval, but they do have to do the release.
Correct. Well, board approval insofar as a building permit.
Right.
Right, okay.
Any other questions for Brian? Do I have a motion that we resolve to adopt this policy? concerning building along Class 6 roads.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved by Mike, seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, another kind of replacement.
It's the replacement. Oops, there's your replacement.
Oh, thank you.
About 2 minutes to go before the public hearing at 6:30, so we will pause in our regular agenda this time.
I'm Donna Lane, by the way, CDBG.
Oh, hi.
Seen some of you before. Every once in a while I appear, right?
I see that our clock now reflects that it is 6:30, so we will commence our public hearing, Town of Plymouth, on the CDBG application. And just to note that informational packets concerning this application process are available to the public at the meeting. This is an opening statement. I'd like to say that the Community Development Block Grant funds are available to municipalities through the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority. Up to $500,000 annually is available on a competitive basis for economic development, public facility, and housing projects, and up to $350,000 for emergency activities that directly benefit low and moderate income persons. Up to $12,000 is available for feasibility study grants. This is a proposed application to the Community Development Finance Authority for up to $12,000 in Community Development Block Grant Feasibility Study funds for the Whippoorwill Cooperative Infrastructure Feasibility Study. The funds will be used to study the infrastructure systems, including water and septic. The majority of residents at the park are of low and moderate incomes. This project conforms with Plymouth's Housing and Community Development Plan's goal of encourage the availability of safe, sanitary, and affordable housing for residents, including water and wastewater systems that meet New Hampshire DES regulations. That is a short-term goal. Funding request up to $12,000. And at this time, I'd like to ask for public comment. Donna? Donna.
You're reading, you're doing my whole job. It's useless. This is a feasibility study, we've had them before, just to go in and look, there's not a lot to it. We hire an engineer to go and look at the systems and come up with a plan of what needs to be done and how to possibly finance it. We've done a few CDBGs in town, and we've done studies before. Does anyone have any questions on it? Public?
No. There are no questions or comments. We will close the public hearing concerning the proposed project and open a public hearing on the Housing and Community Development Plan.
Can I first explain to you before you go into
Yes.
that? You have a housing and community development plan, you've had one for a long time. It was originally adopted by the board in 1999, it was re-adopted in 2004, it was updated and re-adopted in 2005, and now we're talking about 2012. It's out of your master plan, I believe, and it's quite long. It goes on and talks about different housing and development plans for the town. You've re-adopted it a few times. You have to re-adopt it every 3 years approximately for CDBG to count it, and that's why we're re-adopting it today. But we haven't changed anything. It's the same plan. There's just 2 new policy statements that are required that we have added on if you'll approve them. And these are the 2 policy statements. These goals are consistent with Plymouth's master plan and ordinances, and any federal CDBG grant funds awarded to address any of these goals shall be expended consistent with national objectives and shall at a minimum provide improved housing in accordance with Section 8 standards, be used for public facility projects, employment opportunities, or feasibility studies. All CDBG-funded projects shall primarily benefit low and moderate income persons or households and shall not benefit moderate income persons or households to the exclusion of low income persons or households. That's all that we're talking about, doing different, re-adopting it and doing that differently. Now, the plan is, I don't know, about 12 pages long. We could go through it, but it's the same plan you've had before, that these are the only changes we're talking about doing.
And we, during our work session, had some discussion about the plan and the changes proposed, because all of us, in reviewing it, we received it last week for review and noticed that it is out of date. And we've asked our planner to bring it into compliance with our current master plan so that it reflects today's reality and not a previous reality. But we understand that having this new language added to it is necessary for this grant to be considered. Now, Paul, you had proposed some language that we could add, that it would apply for this application only, for purposes of this application only,
For this project,
for this project only. Would there be a problem with that, Donna, from the perspective?
Because you're talking about re-adopting the plan with the updates,
Right.
which, are you going to?
After this.
Right. So can we adopt your current plan with these 2 changes, and then next, whatever, 6 months from now, adopt the updated plan?
Is the only purpose of adopting it now, sending it to CDGB with this grant application? Okay.
You have to have a current plan, and the last time was, what did I say, 2005, so you're out of date.
Right.
So if you, and I think if you say only for this, it's a little too,
Restrictive.
yeah.
for the purpose of the CDBG grant, for Whippoorwill CDBG grant to go forward, the board is re-adopting the plan. I think they can word it that way.
And you can re-adopt it.
And then that would tie it to the Whippoorwill project.
Right.
I'd make that motion. Are we ready for a
Well,
motion?
no, we'll vote after we're
Okay.
finished with the public hearing to ask that question.
Okay, sorry.
Any other questions concerning the,
When's the master plan being updated?
it is a 2008 master plan
Oh,
that
so it's pretty current.
it's only 4 years old, and the planning board is getting ready to do some review of it, but not to overhaul it yet. So it's going to be just a question of
Excuse me.
bringing this plan into compliance with that.
Does the public have any?
Does the public have any comment or questions concerning the Housing and Community Development Plan? There being none, we will close that portion of the public hearing and open a public hearing on the Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan. And just would like to say that although the Whippoorwill project does not involve any displacement or relocation of persons or businesses, if the town were to undertake a CDGB project which involved displacement or relocation, we would then follow this plan, which outlines measures that we would take to find comparable, suitable housing for persons or businesses displaced or relocated.
It's kind of silly that we have to adopt this because we're not talking about displacing, but every single time you ask for CDBG funds, this is a requirement, and you've adopted it every time you've asked for funds before. And it's just saying that if you ever use CDBG funds and you displace someone, you have to follow the Uniform Relocation Act. And we're agreeing that if we do that, we will follow the Uniform Relocation Act. But really, this project is just a study, so that's not going to occur anyway. But it has to be adopted every single time you ask for
Now,
funds.
the one question I did have in reading through that plan, or that relocation assistance plan, is if, for instance, a private owner of a property, as in this case, was doing a project that involved relocation and displacement of people, would they be the ones responsible? Would our adoption of the plan put it on the...
Well, you would be responsible to assure that that gets done. We would have built it into the project.
Okay.
And we would be funding it through the project if that was going to occur.
Okay.
So if we were doing a large project and asking for a couple $100,000 for our project, we would have a line item to move people and get them the relocation budget line. Just to assure, because you would want to take care of it yourself to assure it was done properly.
Is there any public comment or questions concerning the Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan? There being none, I will close that public hearing, and we will move on to voting on the items that we have had public hearings on, starting with the updated Housing and Community Development Plan.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes, and I think the only question that we may still have some discussion on is whether we want to add the language that states for purposes of this project, or if we want to just leave it and understand that we are tasking the planner with updating the plan.
Well, I move that we adopt the updated Housing and Community Development Plan without any other or additional language.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Mike and seconded by Charlie that we re-adopt this as written. Is there any further discussion concerning this?
Madam Chairman, I like the rewording that you just used in the motion that's on the table. I believe that we should be voting to re-adopt the Housing and Community Development Plan, and I don't foresee a need for the phrase "updated" to be part of that motion.
Well, it is updated because those two additional paragraphs at the end of the plan were added to it. That was a change.
If we could say that we re-adopt with the addition of the two policy statements,
The modified housing,
that would work.
is that,
I will amend my motion to reflect Ray's suggestion, so that now my motion is,
to adopt the modified housing and community development plan?
that's good.
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Mike and seconded by Charlie. Any further discussion? All those?
I guess maybe just ask the question of Donna. I mean, that motion doesn't
No, I
create,
think that's okay.
that covers it.
Basically, it said we're re-adopting and adding those two policy statements,
Yeah.
is what I understand.
We're signing the document that's in front of us. So,
Cover that thing.
okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we will adopt the modified housing and community development plan. Now we move on to a vote to adopt the anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan.
Madam Chairman, I move that we adopt the anti-displacement relocation assistance plan as presented.
Second?
It's been moved by Ray, seconded by Dick. Any further discussion concerning that plan? There being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will have adopted the anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. Next, we are moving on to approve submittal of the application and to vote to authorize the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to sign and submit the application, and upon approval of the CDBG application, to authorize the chairman, Board of Selectmen, to execute any documents which may be necessary to effectuate the CDBG contract.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Charlie and seconded by Mike. All those, any discussion concerning that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that has been approved. Now, Sharon, are the documents that I have in the package here the originals that we need to sign, because they are...
I believe so. Do you want to join on that? You do have corrected certification.
I have the corrected certification, yeah. And I just wondered if we voted, but is my signature sufficient on all of these
Signature's
documents?
wonderful, and if you just want to scan and put one over to me, I'll be thrilled. We don't need the paper anymore, just scan and send to me straight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have the application? Where am I supposed to sign the application form, Sharon? Oh, there it is. Is it the certification?
I don't have the application in hand.
Okay, I need to have the municipal certification notarized anyway, so I will do that tomorrow.
Right. I'm not sure she gets all the pieces tomorrow.
Okay, I will plan to be in early so that you can get to that. Okay, moving on to Miles Sinclair with the Hardy County Snowmobile Club, bridge rebuild on Class 6 road, that is Hunt Road. Come on out. Yes, please, Miles, come up. And you can either stand at the podium or you can sit at the table.
Be more comfortable here, if that's okay. Actually, I am currently the trail master and the trail administrator, wearing two different hats for the Hardy Country Snowmobile Club, due to a lack of people willing to fill vacant positions. So like you and a lot of other people, we're doing more with less. There is Hardy Country Snowmobile Club. I've been active with them for 5-6 years now, but they've been using what's known as Hunt Road in the town of Plymouth, I'm guessing for at least 15 years, if not more, as part of our trail system.
I tried to find that on a map. Where is it?
Okay. I actually have two different maps.
Okay.
This is our most recent GPS map of our trail system, and this is the section we're talking about from here to here. That's actually in the town of Plymouth. It actually goes to the Bridgewater line, but for whatever
Okay.
reason, the GPS stops here. I think that's because that's the end of the part of the road that we maintain. Bridgewater Mountain Snowmobile Club takes over at that point. And I came in Friday and got
Okay, it's just that.
a copy of your tax map, and this shows the section of Hunt Road where this brook comes under, and this is where we have that bridge. That is a hemlock deck bridge roughs on Hemlock. It's got, I believe it's 5 pressure-treated telephone pole stringers that support it. And Hemlock typically lasts somewhere between 7 and 10 years, depending on exposure and weather. And that bridge just had its last useful year, in my opinion, this past winter. Obviously didn't get much use because there was very little snowfall. But in my opinion, that bridge would not be safe for use next year.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
It actually shows the brook on this map too. This is where that bridge would be right here.
Got it right here.
Okay. On that creek.
And the bridge is just under 30 feet in length. It pretty much goes bank to bank, which keeps us out of DES jurisdiction. And what I would like to do, I've been the trail master for 3 years now, inherited a system that, through no fault of anybody, but just because the bridges only last so long, especially with the Hemlock. The state didn't used to reimburse for that, now they do. And we moved to pressure treat, which lasts a lot longer. But we've been doing a lot of bridge replacement since then. And what I would like to do with this, the pressure treated telephone poles are fine, but I prefer them for shorter spans, because the longer spans tend to sag a little bit in the middle, which can cause some issues. And if you're so inclined to grant us the approval, what I would prefer to do is to use I-beams, salvaged I-beams. We have, in the past, Polzacs on 3A, just west of Outdoor Performance, on the same side of the road, they sell some salvaged metals. We have bought metals for 2 different bridges from there. I would like to use salvage I-beams for that. And then what we do is we drill and bolt what we call nailer boards, runners, on top of the I-beams, and then we nail the pressure-treated. We now went to 4x6 pressure-treated beams, 14 feet in length. And with a bridge deck of that length and over a brook, we prefer to put railings on it as well, which we do. And my understanding, and the way this is handled in the town of Groton, and I'm not taking exception with what the other gentleman had mentioned about Class 6 roads, but I have the statutes with me if you'd be so inclined to read them. Our understanding is that we need Board of Selectmen approval, or it can be the road agent in certain circumstances, before we can do any work on a Class 6 road.
Is Peter familiar with this proposal at all, Paul?
It would be Brian.
It will be fine.
Brian.
Brian?
Yeah.
And Brian's not his.
Right.
No.
This is common, it's a common request, so.
Yeah.
Who owns I'm curious who owns the property there?
I actually got the abutter's name. One is Donald Atwood, the other is Holly Stevens.
Would we ask them, or? do you know?
Technically, by statute, because you guys govern use of and maintenance of Class 6 roads, I think that's all that's necessary, but I did obtain the information of these other people, like I try to do, just so and I try getting phone numbers for them. I can't find any, so I will send out letters. I wanted to wait until after you guys acted upon this, and just to try to, more so, put them on notice. This is what we're looking to do. We want to address any concerns they have. I already have a letter made up because we sent out several people in Orange.
Do you have I don't know this, I'm just, did you have the statute that gives the selectmen authority, or are you familiar with from whence that authority arises? I just don't know.
To perform work on a Class 6 road?
Yeah, okay.
This talks about Class 1 or 3.
But then the key language, it says
Yeah.
any other highways,
Okay.
which
Or any
includes
other
all
highway.
up to including
Where are you,
Class
where
6.
is this?
Or any other highway without
Okay.
written.
Oh, okay, or any other highway without written permission from the selectman or highway agent.
And this is you're basically talking about replacing an existing bridge. Had the original bridge been done by the Snowmobile Club, or it was a bridge that you did?
Before my time, there's another statute here that you guys
Yep.
want to just be aware of. This, oh, that's not it, it's this one. Just requires that anybody that does work on a Class 6 road has to leave it in at least the same condition as they found it, so you can't leave it in worse condition.
And obviously, using the beams that you're talking about will improve the condition.
Well, and that also prevents somebody from saying, okay, fine, I'm going to take my bridge and go home with it, because you can't do that, because then you're degrading the condition of the road. And in Groton, we had a similar incident with, it wasn't a snowmobile issue, but it was a private property owner issue involving a Class 6 road and the redecking of a bridge, and we actually sought town council's opinion on that. And they agreed that you redeck a bridge, you can't just pull it out, because you degrade the condition of the road.
Charlie, any questions?
Yep. There's another, this is 23121A, Roman 2, it says, even though it's set out in another statute, which I don't think we have right here, Class 6 highways are not subject to any municipal duty of care or maintenance, the municipality shall have the same regulatory authority over such highways as is the case with Class 5 highways.
Right, that's where it says that, you know, the
Yeah.
municipality has the responsibility to approve something like this, even though.
Yeah,
we're
I
not
think that's helpful
We
to
don't
me.
have to maintain it or do anything else with it once it's done. All right, anything, Paula, do you have any?
You know, if it was completely building a new bridge, we would need more time to look into it, but the fact that we're going to be correcting, or at least making a condition safer, that's now existing.
So, given that, do I have a motion to approve the Hardy County Snowmobile's request to, or proposal to rebuild the bridge on Hunt Road?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Charlie and seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I actually prepared 2 copies of the letter, and the reason that it's a little pressing here, I don't know if you guys want, is the State Bureau of Trails opened up the grant proposal process at the beginning of April. I just found out at our last meeting about 10 days ago that I was wearing both hats, and they have to be ready for signing at the county level, which is in Romney next Monday, a week from today, and then they have to be into the State Bureau of Trails by the 4th of May.
So
They want landowner permission or
Town.
whoever has the authority in that package. They don't want to approve something that, you know, a landowner is not going to allow, or a
Okay.
municipality.
Would you be satisfied if we wrote approved Board of Selectmen with our signatures on it now? That way we don't have to,
And the reason I had a second is in case you guys wanted to know.
This is the only use of that for Class 6 road, snowmobile?
I wouldn't say it's the only use. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that at all, but you start going down a grade at some point, it's fairly level for a good portion of it, but once you start going down that grade, it's eroded and it's exposed some ledge. So I don't think you're getting too many vehicles beyond that point, but prior to that downgrade, there has been active logging out there in the last few years, and the road's in fairly decent condition. There is another bridge that just get myself oriented. This one here, much closer to the Hebrontown line, that it's set on dry laid stone foundations, footings, what have you. And, I mean, my belief is that there was a bridge there for probably at least 100 or more years. And some loggers had cabled together logs, which they oftentimes do to make a, you know, a bridge for their harvesting operations. And somebody had laid like hemlock deck boards on top of that for the wheels of the vehicles. I'd been under that bridge. That bridge's days are numbered. And I understand it's not your guys' responsibility, but I'm just trying to give you a heads up that depending on funding that's available through Bureau of Trails Grant and Aid, we may be back before you next year looking to do something with that. because at some point in the not-too-distant future, that bridge won't be safe either, in my opinion. So,
Well, thank you very much, and that's your copy, and this is for our files, so I think we are set.
And I just want to, I haven't had an opportunity to dig into our files. I don't know if now is the time to have you guys address reauthorization for our use of that. Because by statute, and I have that statute here as well, the Board of Selectmen has the authority to authorize motorized use of, four-wheelers if you do, snowmobiles particularly, to authorize the use of those roads, unmaintained portions of them, for snowmobile usage. And I don't know, if you guys feel now that is the time for that, to just,
What's to prevent anybody, I thought people could use those roads.
you have, by statute, you have to receive authorization. Once that authorization has been received, before you can revoke that, you need to hold a public hearing.
I see. So has it been,
This has been long-standing authorization.
And I don't know if it was just a handshake in the beginning or what, but I mean, if I'm going to be the one handling the files, I prefer a written landowner permission, and the Bureau of Trails prefers that as well, or, municipal authority.
I think probably the best thing to do would be to put together a formal document for us to sign to get permission, and then we can reconsider it. I mean, I don't think we'd anticipate that we'd attempt to revoke it, but rather than just do something like this, I'd rather have something that's more official format
Okay?
to go ahead and do that.
So would I just submit something in writing to your office, Mr.
That would be
Priest?
fine. Yeah, we can consider that under correspondence. I'd like to just see that.
And that's the only
Sorry.
Class 6 road that we do in town.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and
We just
I'll get
keep
that
that
out
copy.
shortly.
We just keep this copy.
Yeah.
moving on to the State of New Hampshire transfer of 2.8 acres of land on the easterly side of Route 3. Paul, would you like to?
Yes, that's the partial land north of where, I believe the name of it is Frosty Scoops, in front of the Common Man. Alex Ray has been entertaining the state in regards to acquiring that piece of property for quite a long time now. And the state is making a proposal to sell that piece of property to Alex Ray with the town's first refusal.
Is this where the ice cream stand is?
Yeah.
So this is the Common Man or the
Yeah.
Foster's, right, isn't it? Okay. All right.
It's basically a triangle. There's no access to it on one side by Route 3. There's no access to it on a second leg by the railroad tracks. And on the third leg, there's no access to it because of the 50-foot buffer for the exit 26 on-ramp. So the only person that really has access to that is Alex.
Alex Ray through the Frosty Scoops location. Yeah, and I just would like to point out that that is very clearly specified in the DOT letter that there would be no access to Route 3, that the department would retain the land 50 feet from the USP center line is now traveled, and that there would be no access allowed across the railway corridor. There had been some consideration of whether this property might be suitable for one of the town's safety buildings, and both the topography of it, which includes a very steep and deep basin towards the back section, towards 93, and these restrictions placed on it by the state would essentially render it useless for our purposes.
And one of the restrictions is no excavating.
And no excavating is also a restriction on it. So in order, if we were to consider it, that deep basin would have to be leveled, and that's not allowed either.
I think it's also helpful to point out that one of the upsides to the transfer to Alex Ray is that the 2-point-some acres would come back on the tax rolls.
Yes.
Well, I have no problem with it. I just wonder what he wanted. Did Alex initiate this, or was it?
I think he's initiated, yeah.
And no excavation, that's in regards to filling the basin or something like that,
Right.
not the existing topography. I don't know what Alex's intent is.
Right.
But-
So
Probably doesn't know.
what we need to vote on is whether we wish to purchase this property or to allow Alex Ray to purchase it.
I'd make a motion that the town waive its right of first refusal on its property.
Second.
It's been moved by Dick and seconded by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll waive our right of Any public comment tonight?
Just perhaps an announcement that we have a Kansas Community Council tomorrow night at 5:30, right here in this room.
Very good, thank you. And for anyone who may not have heard that, there will be a Campus Community Council meeting, the last one of this academic year, tomorrow night at 5:30 here in this room at Town Hall.
There may be cookies.
Maybe cookies, Thank you, Tim. All right. At this time, I would request a motion to go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-8:3, 2, A through C.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved by Mike and seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.